You believed it, not half-heartedly, not with one foot out completely. You would have said it in front of people. You organized your life around it. Some of those decisions touched other people's lives, shaped them in ways you may never fully trace. And then without announcement, without ceremony, something shifted just slightly, just enough, and you felt it. The thing you were most sure of isn't sure of you anymore. And the question came the way it always comes when it's real. When it's not hypothetical, not philosophical, not something happening to someone else in a book. What else? What else have I believed? Like this, completely without question. That was exactly this wrong. This video will not answer that. Not because I don't have answers. Because no answer I give you will be stronger than the question you're already holding. And giving you something weaker than what you already have would be a betrayal. So we hold it together. We've been calling this doubt. That's the wrong word. Doubt is polite. Doubt leaves room. Doubt says, I'm not entirely sure, and then goes to sleep. What you're feeling doesn't sleep. What you're feeling is vertigo, vertigo of the self. The spinning that happens not when the world moves, but when you do. When the ground beneath your entire understanding of who you are begins to shift, not outside you, inside you, in the place where certainty used to live. And the feeling that lives there now, name it correctly before you try to do anything about it. It feels like shame, but heavier than shame. Shame is about what you did. This is about what you were. It feels like grief, but stranger than grief. Grief is about what you lost. This is about something that may never have fully existed the way you believed it did. It feels like standing in the ruins of a building and realizing you are also the building. What you are left with is not a question that wants an answer. It is a question that wants to be felt. So feel it, not doubt, vertigo. And the difference matters more than I can say. Here is what no one tells you about being wrong. You are never wrong about one thing. Beliefs don't live alone. They live in architecture. They hold each other up. The way walls hold ceilings. The way roots hold ground. The way a city's electrical grid runs through one main line, invisible, essential, everywhere at once. You believed you were a good judge of people. That belief was holding others. My relationships are real. My choices have been sound. I know what I'm doing. Those beliefs were holding others. I can trust my instincts. I've been paying attention. I am not sleepwalking through my own life. Those were holding others. You see it. You pull one thread and the architecture speaks, not with words, with trembling. And you stand there in the trembling asking the real question. Not what was I wrong about, but what was I actually made of? Was the thing I called my judgment just pattern match and dressed in confidence? Was the thing I called my values just the habits I never stopped to examine? Was the thing I called knowing myself just the story I kept repeating, because the alternative was a silence I didn't know how to fill? This is not the beginning of a crisis. This is the end of a long sleep. And waking up, genuinely waking up, has never been comfortable. It was never supposed to be. Now we arrive at the part that makes this feel like a trap. You feel the wrongness, so you do what you do. You think about it harder, more carefully, more honestly than you've thought about anything. You try to trace the error, locate it, understand the full extent of the damage. But here is the wall you will always hit. The instrument you're using to examine your beliefs is the same mind that built them. You cannot use a broken ruler to measure its own brokenness. This is not a flaw in your thinking. This is the edge of what thought can reach about itself, the wall at the end of the corridor. You walk toward it and it does not move and it will not move. And this is not something intelligence can solve, because the problem is intelligence examining itself with its own instruments. Descartes understood this. He sat in a cold room and stripped everything away, every assumption, every convenience, every inherited belief, trying to find one thing he could be completely certain of. He got down to almost nothing. I think, therefore I am. That's it. One thing survived total skepticism. And even him understood that you cannot doubt your way to certainty about everything. At some point, you have to stand on something. Not because you've proven it solid, because the alternative is to stand on nothing forever and call that honesty. But what he discovered, what the cold room actually gave him, was not an answer. It was a different relationship to the question. He knew what had survived the fire. So when he built again, he built with open eyes, not certainty, awareness. The difference between those two things, certainty and awareness, is everything. Certainty closes, awareness holds. The beliefs you're questioning right now, you didn't hold them carelessly. You weren't performing certainty. You weren't lying to yourself on purpose. You believe them the way you breathe, automatically, completely, without deciding, to the way children believe in the realness of the people they love before they understand that people are also capable of being absent. And that sincerity, that full, unguarded sincerity, is not your failure. It is the proof that you were actually there. The people who are never wrong are not the careful ones. They are the ones who never fully arrived, who never committed, who never believed anything hard enough for it to cost them something when it broke, who stayed far enough back that wrongness could never quite reach them. You didn't do that. You came all the way in. And this wound is what full presence costs sometimes, and it is worth it, not because of what it teaches you, but because of what it opens. The wound is the entry, not as a metaphor, not as comfort structurally. The person you were before this moment was asking certain predictable questions, the ones that confirmed what was already there. The architecture of your certainty had its own internal logic, and it generated its own questions, and those questions always arrived at approximately the same place. But the person standing in this feeling uncertain, exposed, not sure what they're made of, not sure what to stand on, that person can ask questions that person could not ask before. Questions that had no room to form inside the old architecture. And those questions, the ones being born right now in the rubble, those are the most valuable things you will ever hold. Not because they'll lead you somewhere safe, because they'll lead you somewhere real. I'm not going to tell you it gets easier. I'm not going to offer you the version of this where certainty returns, where the ground solidifies, where you look back on this feeling from a safe distance and call it a chapter that ended well. Maybe that happens. Maybe you find something solid on the other side of this. But I think what you're carrying right now is not a temporary crisis on the way to a permanent answer. I think it is a permanent condition with which you are just now finally starting to live honestly. Because every certainty you will ever build from here, every new belief, every new version of yourself, every new understanding of who you are and what you stand for, it will also be temporary. Not because you are broken, because everything true is alive, and alive things grow. And growing things change shape. And changing shape means leaving behind what the previous shape required of you. You will believe things in 10 years that you cannot imagine believing now. And the things you believe now deeply, carefully, painfully will look from there like something a stranger believed. And that stranger, the one you are right now in this exact moment holding this exact question, built the path that leads to who you will be then, not in spite of the wrongness because of it. So the question you came in with, why do I feel like everything I believe is wrong? It doesn't end here. It doesn't end anywhere because the person asking it keeps growing, and the question keeps growing with them. And growth has no final shape, no destination where the shape declares itself complete and stops. The answer isn't coming. What's coming is the next version of the question. And that version will feel more true and more terrifying and more alive than anything you are holding right now. And that is the only thing I can offer you. The only thing that won't eventually be wrong.